Some school districts in Florida are facing backlash for asking female student athletes to report their menstrual history online. And in a world where Roe v. Wade no longer exists, there's actually a lot to be worried about. Let me break down what's going on. In Florida, if you want to play school sports, you're asked to share information on your medical conditions like seizures and allergies. Sounds reasonable, right? But for female athletes, some of the questions, although presently optional to answer, can be very personal. Like, when was your first menstrual period? And how about how much time passes between your periods? These questions may not be new, but how the answers are being stored is. They used to be submitted in paper form to the school's athletic director. But now some schools are using an outside third-party company called Activate to store that data online. And with a subpoena, the company acknowledges it may be required to share that information with law enforcement. An Activate spokesperson says the company adheres to the data privacy standards set by each school district, in addition to all state and federal laws relating to the confidentiality of student records. But in a state that criminalizes abortion after 15 weeks and bans transgender girls from women's sports, families are concerned that storing reproductive information digitally could put their kids at risk. Even doctors are taken aback by the move. One telling the Palm Beach Post, "I don't see why school districts need that access to that type of information. It sure as hell will give me pause to fill it out with my kid." Joining me now is civil rights activist Nadine Smith, the executive director of Equality Florida. Nadine, good morning. Thank you for taking the time to join us. I want to talk about why this move to store medical questionnaires online by a third-party company, which, by the way, is not even governed by HIPAA, which is very important, why this is causing so much concern. We've already seen this play out in Nebraska when Facebook, responding to a warrant, turned over to law enforcement private messages between a mom and her daughter about her use of abortion pills. Nadine, is this the kind of disclosure that has parents in Florida worried about this new move?
Absolutely. And it's quite understandable. You know, we're living in a Florida where anti-LGBTQ hysteria is being whipped up by the governor, and as access to health care is being dictated by politicians, not doctors and families. So, you know, as a parent, I understand why parents are reacting, why students are fearful. You know, DeSantis has made our schools less safe for the diverse population that makes up our state. We see it in statewide student walkouts during the legislative session. We see it in the teacher shortage because educators are tired of being vilified, told to hide, distort, or outright lie to students about history. So this is a governor who filters everything through the lens of his 2024 presidential ambitions, not the needs of Florida. So he knows he has to outflank Trump to the extreme right. And to do that, he does what, you know, extremists do. He scapegoats minorities. He's created a climate of invading privacy, of censoring, of banning books, and replacing parents and doctors with politicians. So there's no trust that this information is being taken for the right reason, stored in a manner that is responsible. And you have parents telling their daughters, when you go to the doctor, don't talk about your menstrual cycle, don't give any of that information because we fear it will be weaponized to turn you into a criminal for seeking medical attention.
Nadine, there's also been pushback from the LGBTQ+ community. Florida law identifies transgender girls as boys, and when announcing a new law that bans trans girls from women's sports, Governor Ron DeSantis said, in Florida, girls are going to play girl sports and boys are going to play boys sports. Could that questionnaire be used against trans students, and if so, how?
Again, that fear is well-founded. This is a governor who has weaponized any place where the public is unfamiliar, doesn't have enough exposure to a group. He demonizes them, whether it's immigrants, whether it's the existence of trans people, whether it's the LGBTQ community. And so I think it is a very perilous and dangerous thing to see this kind of invasion of our privacy, stoking of fears, outright hostility. You know, it was the governor and his office using this rhetoric basically to describe teachers and anyone who stood up for the LGBTQ community, especially students and parents feeling very uneasy about sending their children back to a school system that has been made outright hostile. So I think that this is what we are seeing. The suspicion is well-founded because of the agenda that the DeSantis administration is inflicting on our schools and the desire to strip away our right to privacy, to engage in censorship, to, we don't know how this information is going to be weaponized, but every indication is we should be very concerned.
Nadine Smith, we're going to keep an eye on what happens with this questionnaire. There is a county here in Florida, Palm Beach, that is actually pressing to keep out those questions. But we appreciate you taking the time to come over here and express and share some insight into why this is going to be a concerning move on the part of Floridians. We may be entering into more of a big brother state than anybody wants to have. Nadine Smith, thank you for being here this morning.